Now, I bet a whole lot of us is planning some big trip out of town right now for the summer, but I gotta remind you, you probably don't need to go as far away as you think, because Illinois is in the middle of everything. Whether you are looking for adventures in breathtaking state parks, check. Explore the neon nostalgia of Route 66, check. Or want to make the most of summertime shot like me, check. And Enjoy Illinois can help you plan your getaway or help you convince your people to come visit you this time. Find just what you're looking for and a little more at enjoyillinois.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, what all did lawmakers get done in Springfield? Well, one thing they didn't get done is a Bears stadium plan. We're going to talk all about it. Plus, we're dreaming up our perfect Chicago summer vacations. It's Tuesday, June 2nd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate y'all making time for the podcast. Today, we got executive producer Simone Alisea in the building with us. Simone, how you feeling? How was your weekend?
I'm good. The weekend was too short. I missed Memorial Day. It's just once you have that first 3-day weekend of the hot season, you're just like, oh, give me more. But it was good. I made it out to King Spa. I had a nice time. So
come on, that's your thing, good. Bro. That's your thing.
I love King Spa. It's my Disneyland. It truly is.
This weekend, I spent a ton of time with my family. My sister was in town. Celebrating her recent graduation from Tulane in New Orleans and Nolens. I spent a lot of time on my bike this weekend, which was really nice. I had plans to go out to the Zach Fox concert. I've been talking about it for weeks and weeks. But he was going on midnight to 2 a.m. And at the last minute, I ended up looking because we ended up just staying in the house with my sister and my parents. But hey, it was a good weekend overall. And while we were out enjoying our weekend, however short it was, lawmakers were up well into the middle of the night trying to get a state budget across the line. Simone, they didn't submit anything until right in the weekend. And then they added more stuff at 2 a.m. Monday morning. It's always interesting to me because by the end of it, you're like, man, look at them. They up late at night working. That speaks to something. But some of this feels like this could have been done already.
I mean, yes. So Governor J.B. Pritzker gives his budget address in February where he lays out, here's what I would like to see happen, right? And lawmakers have between then and the end of May to, as far as budget goes, right, to pass a budget that, either aligns more or less with what the governor was thinking or differs or whatever, right? You and I have been through this now. We've been through several cycles of this, right? And this is kind of how it goes. There's always last minute stuff. There's always a late into the night, a new amendment, and you wake up Monday morning and they're like, so they didn't pass this big thing, or this thing did pass, or whatever. I think it's interesting because this year there were certainly challenges that lawmakers were dealing with, particularly federal funding, right? Big question. The other thing hanging over their head, right, is okay, how are they going to pay for some of those services they want to try to backfill because of federal government cuts? But, wait, we're in an affordability crisis. And if we're going to raise taxes, that could get really, really dicey for the people of Illinois. They certainly still raised new taxes. There's new taxes in this budget. Spoiler.
But the progressive taxes that some lawmakers wanted, that a lot of people wanted, like taxing major corporations, taxing billionaires more, that may have been on the table back in January, February, but by, the end of or the top of Monday, some of those progressive taxes weren't there. And it was more a lot of little taxes across the board in other places.
Yeah. And I think some wells that we've seen Illinois lawmakers go to again and again, and some that are a little bit new, lawmakers did vote to suspend the gas tax increase that was set to go into effect in July. They've postponed that to January. Now, that doesn't go as far as, some lawmakers had called for just suspending the gas tax altogether. Some other states have done that with the rise in gas prices prices due to the war in Iran. Another thing that they passed is something called a sales tax holiday. Basically, there will not be sales taxes applied to school supplies between August 7th and August 16th. So those are sort of two like tax relief elements. There's also a property tax relief plan that lawmakers passed. This one gets a bit complicated because it has to do with the sale of tax debt, and it also gets Illinois in compliance with the 2023 Supreme Court ruling. So this is not done out of the goodness of their hearts by any means. But basically, what this will mean for homeowners is makes it easier to set up payment plans for people who are delinquent on their property taxes, who have failed to pay their property taxes. And it also creates more opportunities for, in the event that like that property tax debt does get sold off, properties are foreclosed on, that homeowners can recoup at least some of the lost equity.
Yeah, speaking of some relief, one of the programs I was interested in is the Families Receiving Emergency Support for Hunger, or the FRESH program. This is a 1-year, $70 million program that is for people who may have lost access to their SNAP benefits for one reason or another. We know that immigrant families have lost access based on the new work requirement. Lost people have lost access. And while it's only going to provide $400 for those people, which according to WTTW, about 2 million Illinois residents, 900,000 people in Cook County rely on SNAP benefits, and the average monthly payment is about $370. So for the average person, that may have only covered 1 month. But what I'm hopeful for is that it sets up a program that says, here's a place where a pot of money will be. And so lawmakers can now argue in the next session, maybe the special session, or when next year's budget comes up, that we should refill that pot of money.
Yeah. I was interested by this too, because I do think the mechanism, it's a one-time $400 payment to those families recently booted from SNAP. I think, you mentioned sort of that larger number of overall people who are on SNAP, have SNAP benefits, but I think it's some 100,000 people who are expected to be who have been affected and who may be eligible for these payments. And you're right, $400 one time, like we've all been to the grocery store, like that's that's not much, right? Like it's a couple trips, but I think the mechanism of that one-time payment certainly sounds familiar to those of us who got those COVID payments, who have been watching guaranteed income programs.
100%.
That was really interesting to me.
So, Simone, we've been talking about federal funding cuts where they didn't institute some larger progressive taxes. So how are they going to pay for some of these things?
Yeah, so there's a couple things going on. First of all, so I mentioned that we're suspending that gas tax increase, which okay, that's cool. But one of the things that lawmakers had was a surplus in revenue from gas taxes this year because the prices are so high. So like that has gone to sort of plug some holes. And that was something that they didn't know in February, right, when Governor Pritzker gave his address. But some new revenue sources. Okay, a big one is a tax on social media companies. If this sounds familiar to you, that's because Chicago passed this in the fall, winter of 2025. And there is currently a lawsuit that Chicago is fighting because social media companies, don't want to pay this tax. They think it's illegal. And it's a per user tax. So it's based on how many users these platforms have. But it looks like the state thought Chicago was doing something right because they've adopted something that looks very similar on a statewide level. So that is one thing. Similarly, we're looking at taxes on crypto, right? On cryptocurrency, also fantasy sports, creating a licensing structure for fantasy sports operators. We have seen in recent years the way that Illinois has balanced its budget on gambling taxes, particularly sports betting taxes, to the point, right, that DraftKings decided to close their sports book at Wrigley, right? The physical site. The lawmakers also passed legislation to tax bets on prediction markets. We talked about this a couple months ago, as this legislation was getting underway, these prediction markets sort of becoming
the Kalshis and Poly markets of the world.
Yeah, becoming this sort of like wild west of of gambling. But is it gambling, or is it just is it something else? So I think Illinois sort of dipping its toe and trying to see, hey, can we make some tax revenue off this? As well as maybe regulating it as well. And I do think like some of this stuff, like particularly around crypto, sports betting, prediction markets, and even social media, like this new kind of like Illinois' foray into taxing and regulating tech on their own. We're going to get into some of the policy things that lawmakers passed, but like they also talked about AI, and they did pass some starting regulations around AI and what they are required to see from AI companies, right? And I think state lawmakers are very interested in kind of like what is the role of the state in kind of regulating tech and again making money off of it. And I think those given how much those companies spent in the primary this year, I think they know it's coming.
I think a lot of us would argue they can go further, but I agree. Illinois has maintained its place in a lot of ways as being at the forefront of making it easier to hold some of these companies accountable. But I think, given that the conversation around tech companies is very broad, but also being centered right now on these hyperspeed data centers, like not just the data centers that are already across Chicago and Illinois that, right, power cloud computing and allow parts of the internet in our area to function, but the ones that are going to continue to usher in AI. Those data centers, Governor Pritzker said he wanted to, think a little more broadly about the tax incentives on them, right? There was a push for the Power Act and for other mechanisms to hold them accountable to paying their share of rising energy costs. That I didn't see that policy ultimately making it through this spring.
No, it did not. And I think as between that and the Bears, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, I think that's probably one of the biggest sort of like punts of the session. So as you said, in his initial budget, Pritzker called to end tax incentives for new data center construction, which again is a pretty kind of modest step, in a state that has had a proliferation of data centers and that has constructed quite a few of them, especially after there's been so much pushback in so many different parts of the state, particularly around Chicagoland, around, as you say, hyperscale data centers. The Power Act, so there was the tax incentive thing, which again, lawmakers chose, they didn't pause those. So those are still in effect.
And that dates back to Pritzker's, like one of the very first policies
2019,
he instituted in his first term.
Yeah, he was a big proponent of bringing those data centers to Illinois as an economic driver. The Power Act would have gone even farther, right, and would have created more regulations around transparency. It would have created more regulations around like the resources that the companies building those data centers would have to pay for, particularly like electricity and stuff.
It also would have forced them to work with like communities to establish community benefits agreements, Illinois' EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. And so, more transparency in the process of them being built.
I think we're absolutely going to be talking about this next year. Like, I think data center construction is not going to go away, and the concerns around it are not going to go away.
No. One policy that also didn't go away is that pesky cell phone ban.
Yeah, the school cell phone ban. So this finally passed. This is something Pritzker's been kind of gunning for a while. And this will affect school districts and schools that don't already have a policy around cell phones. But basically, the general concept is kids can't have cell phones during the school day. I think there's an exception for high schoolers are allowed to have it like during lunch and stuff, during breaks. But generally, the idea is like you got to put your phone away, or there has to be a place that kids can put their phone, and they can't have them during the school day. So proponents, right? The idea is like cell phones are disruptive, and kids shouldn't be on them all day, and and there's also like questions around screen time in kids, right? And trying to limit that. In addition to sort of the disruption of schooling, right? I think opponents generally have been, parents who are concerned about reaching their kid in an emergency. It's something that we've seen school districts and again, individual schools approach. And so I'll be curious to see which schools this ends up affecting who don't already have bans and what this means for kids.
The American Writers Festival returns to Chicago for a free 2-day celebration of the written word. Co-presented by the American Writers Museum and Chicago Public Library, some featured writers include 2026 Pulitzer Prize winner Daniel Kraus, as well as best-selling and award-winning authors Reza Aslan, Dr. Eve L. Ewing, and our poet laureate Maida Del Valle. But there will be more than 90 writers across 40-plus programs spanning pretty much any genre you can think of. Fiction and poetry, comedy and horror, you get the idea. You can have thought-provoking conversations with acclaimed storytellers, get your book signed, take writing workshops, or enjoy story time, crafts, and other family-friendly activities. It's June 6th at the American Writers Museum and June 7th at Harold Washington Library. Learn more at AmericanWritersFestival.org. Simone, we also got to talk about your favorite thing, the Chicago Bears and their future stadium.
I was really hoping to be done with this by now. This was the whole point.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When we first talked at the top of the session, I was pretty confident. The confidence mostly buoyed by, like you, a frustration with this entire process. But I figured the Bears had played their best card with floating, going to Indiana. Lawmakers seem to be rushing to the table, but they had a deal. They scrapped that, and now late at night they pitched yet another plan.
Okay,
for the
let's
Bears.
talk about this. Let me get into this, Jacoby, because I'm all fired up about this. Okay, so what you're referring to, there was a deal on the table, and this is a deal we've been talking about most of the session, the mega projects bill. We've talked about it, we've dissected it, but basically, as you point out, what it would have done is it would have freeze property tax rates for the Bears in Arlington Heights, and would allow
other $100 million plus mega
it would apply
projects,
to other potential projects, but again, it was essentially designed. It was designed with the Bears in mind, and this was the sort of preferred deal too from the team. It would have frozen, it would have given them, for the Bears, the way they put it is it gives them property tax certainty. Basically, like, they don't want to build a big stadium and then have to pay all the new property taxes that would be incurred by adding value to that property. Who does that?
Right.
And, they would make a payment in lieu. So basically it just kind of sets it a bit more flat. And so they kind of know over the course of construction, especially as they build Bears Town around the stadium, they would kind of know what they're paying in property taxes. And again, as you point out, this mega projects bill would apply to future developments of similar sizes all across the state. I certainly have, I think there's a lot to criticize about that plan. Like, the idea, again, to me, and the Cook County Treasurer's Office pointed out the same thing in a report, the idea that, like, you should be saved the effort of you don't have to pay for that value that you create on the property, when that's the whole point of how property tax works, is a bit absurd to me.
Yeah. It isn't handing over, $2 billion to build a stadium, but it is in line with the scrutiny we've had and researchers have had with these stadium deals across the country, that they don't work for cities and municipalities, and they ultimately don't work for fans nearly as much as they work for the owners. And so, that deal on the table, Bears were cool with it. House was cool with it.
The House passed it. That was the thing. The House passed it. And so whatever my issues are with that bill, it seemed to be happening, right? Again, I have long said, like, the Bears have owned the property in Arlington Heights. Why are they going to rent acres from Indiana when they own property in Arlington? What are we doing here? Why? Let's just, whatever. Like, we'll get through this. And then overnight, at the last minute, the Senate's like, actually, no, we don't like this at all. We don't like anything about it. They produced this completely different plan that involves basically allowing municipalities of a certain size, although, to be fair, that size refers to Chicago and Arlington Heights, basically. Yes. Allowing municipalities to create their own stadium authorities. So the state has a stadium authority. They're the ones who, that's how we got Soldier Field. It's how we have all our stadiums here mostly here in Chicago, right? Again, when we talk about Soldier Field, it is publicly owned. It's a publicly owned stadium that the Bears are renting, essentially. And so it would allow the cities to create their own stadium authorities and then kind of make the deal as you wish. It would be up to those municipal stadium authorities to, if there's any kind of tax incentive or whatever the kind of plan they want to put forward to do that. And it's a bit confusing in Arlington Heights because the Bears would like still own the land, but they wouldn't own the stadium. That would be the stadium authority. And then they would create a similar deal like the one that's being proposed in Hammond. And what the Senate lawmakers who passed this, they say like, hey, basically like Arlington Heights, Chicago, this means if we do this means you guys can duke it out and we can step back and we don't have to be involved. And like, none of us have to be responsible for the Bears leaving Chicago, basically. Yeah. The Senate passed this, but by the time they passed it, the House had already adjourned. So the House wasn't going to take it up. And so now we have nothing. The Bears are, kind of playing as they can. They're like, we're maintaining our late spring, early summer timeline. It's June 2nd. It's late spring, early summer to make a decision. And they still say that their only two options are Arlington Heights and Hammond. They are not considering Chicago. They are not considering Soldier Field. I wonder if there's going to be a summer session, a special session on this issue, just because I do think there's a lot of pressure on it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there will be. And again, the more I've looked at the Hammond deal, I understand how the Bears are leveraging it. They are being told they'll get all of the revenue from, I believe, Bears and non-Bears events, which now with the deal with Chicago, they get the Bears revenue, but the non-Bears money goes to the city. They'd agree to a 35-year lease, and after 40 years after the stadium's paid off, they buy it for $1 from Hammond. And, these billion-dollar corporations are thinking long-term. I can understand that. But let's be real. They purchased those 326 acres. They hoped it would be a breeze to get through. They thought the biggest difficulty was just going to be the part of convincing Chicagoans that, hey, sorry, this is going to be good for all of us. And now that we're hearing that there have been these potential emails or calls between city officials and the Bears, and they're trying to woo them back to the city, Chicago or Arlington Heights seem like, in terms of building this larger Bears town out, seems like their best options. But now that we're here, how can you not stay glued in to see if they, because I do think it would be calling the city and state's bluff to ultimately to move across the state.
This is a giant game of chicken.
Yeah.
Jacoby,
that's what lawmakers did. They clearly said, we don't believe you. We don't think
you'll actually do it.
Yeah, we don't think you'll pull the trigger on Hammond, no matter how much you talk about it. We don't think you'll do it. Some of the takes I saw in the public is that Illinois lawmakers are terrible negotiators, that they've had 5 years to figure something out to keep the Bears somewhere in Illinois, and they can't get it done. And I think managing what is clear from the public, that they don't want billions of dollars handed over against the broad fandom of the Bears and their own political desires, I think they have done, honestly, a pretty decent job of carrying this as far down the field as possible. And I do think if the Bears ultimately choose Arlington Heights, this move, regardless of what deal they end up with, I do think signals lawmakers pulling the ball back on their side a little bit. But yeah, I'm over it. At this point, I think the Bears should just go on and call the Hammond thing, sign a deal with Indiana, and throw the middle fingers up, because that's all that's left on the table.
Yeah, I just like, just make the decision. Just make the decision, and like this, it's
yeah. This last deal felt fake though. Like, of everything, it just
the
felt like
public stadium, the municipal stadium authorities.
Because I get what they're saying. They're if you're willing to accept a publicly owned stadium there, and you already have one, you're willing to do it again against everything you're saying about wanting your private stadium.
Yes, I think it feels like an abdication. That's my problem with it. It's state lawmakers saying, actually, I don't want to make this decision,
and that because of that, it feels fake. Because they do. And
also, like, we could have proposed municipal stadium authorities years ago. years ago we could have had this conversation, but now we're on the wire and we want to have this okay, cool.
It was a big conversation at the barbecue over the weekend. Like,
was it really?
Like, yeah, people were like, so is Chicago really done? Are they really leaving Chicago? Like, people are still in that part of the conversation. Like, are they really gonna? Some folks like, they're not really leaving Chicago. They just want more money or they want a better deal. And I was like, no, they are definitely leaving. They're gone. But I was like, man, are they staying in Chicago? Are they?
When is the lease actually up at Soldier Field?
2033. I think the early termination might be before that, but
okay.
Yeah,
I just don't know. What else is there to say? Like, what else is there to say about this? And I somehow we're still talking about it. Everyone else is still talking about it.
It feels at this point you are either staunchly on one side of things. You either think Illinois has been terribly negotiating this the entire time, and if the Bears leave, that will be a stain on all of these politicians' records. Or at this point, you are thinking, hey, they have held out years, not just handing over billions.
Maybe, or we're going to see like what happens when you don't, right? And we're going to have to suffer the consequences, which could be the Bears moving to Indiana, and we'll have to manage.
Shimon, we was talking about it earlier that the weekend was not long enough. But beyond that, something I've been feeling the last couple of weeks, and I feel it every year around this time because of my childhood conditioning, it's this feeling that right as summer and the weather is breaking, that all of a sudden I'm like guaranteed these months off of school. I'm just like, like all the way, because I went to school from preschool all the way to grad school and never took a break. And so I kept getting summer vacations into my 20s. And so my body still, and like I dream about it, like this idea of like, oh my God, June is here. I'm finna get this break. And then I go, no, I gotta go to work.
We're still working.
This June 1st, I gotta go to work. I guess in the spirit of summer vacation, as school is about to end on Thursday for CPS, and they're going to get 81 days, more than they had 67 last summer. They're going to get 81 days. Simone, if you had 81 days off, you didn't have to come back to work until August 24th. How would you spend your summer vacation? The caveat being, like, obviously we would travel and do a whole bunch of stuff. But if you had to just spend your summer in Chicago, what would be your priorities? What would be your focus?
I think I would take advantage of all of the free museum days. 100%, because they're all on weekdays, which is great, particularly in the summer especially for Illinois families. You got kids, you want to go to the Shed, you want to go to the Art Institute, you want to go to the field, whatever. But every time I see like free for Illinois residents on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm like, cool, must be nice, should be fun.
Come on, get this free Wednesday in. Yeah, all right.
Go to all the things and just wander around and be air conditioned and go look at all the cool things and learn. That'd be like, I feel like that's like the equivalent of adult summer camp is spending time in the museums.
Yeah, I'm spending, like, this past weekend, I rode my bike from my house all the way to my mom's. And just the entire time, I just was like, I just want to keep doing this. I just want to stay outside on my bike.
You want to like go ride your bike to your friend's place and then be like, hey, get out here. And then like go ride your bike together somewhere. Like,
yeah. And I also got two bikes. So I also got an e-bike. And so if I just want to ride and just breeze through the city under 28 miles per hour in a bike lane, like I would just explore this city via bike as much as possible. The concerts, I'm trying to get in as many concerts as possible. Like in June alone, there's like the Juneteenth Jubilee coming up at Salt Shed, which just got announced, and which is free. All you gotta do is RSVP. Another free one at Navy Pier. Shapes Fest Part 2 is back on June. So that's June 19th. The Juneteenth Jubilee is June 20th. Those back-to-back days. I'm just music.
My friends and I were talking about this, Jacoby. Do you know, by chance, offhand, where you can have bonfires in Chicago. I know Promontory Point.
Yeah, because I know Promontory Point got one because we do that every summer for sure.
Evanston apparently also has pits, but Evanston beaches, though, you have to pay to get into Evanston beaches.
Ugh. Caldwell Woods.
Okay. That's got to be more like campfire.
Like I said, South Shore Nature Sanctuary.
Oh, yes.
Another thing, I would spend a lot of time on the water in a kayak. Oh, I did not
Have
do
you
it
bought a
nearly
kayak yet? Or are you
Not
still
yet, but
in
I
the
was
rent
very
life?
close.
Okay.
I was very close for a while. But if I had a full summer vacation, I'd spend a lot of time kayaking the river and also out there on the lake a little bit. Like, yeah, it's extremely relaxing. And I mean, it's not, besides the kayaking, it's not too off how I spend my summer vacation as a kid. I spend most of it on a bike somewhere with my friends until high school when the rink came, and then
you were working on
my summer vacation was over. Yeah, working all summer, but yeah, I miss a good summer vacation. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I was just gonna say, I do think there is something, as we were talking about this, like there's something so nostalgic about summer vacation and kind of what that means and how that's different from taking a vacation from work, where like you know, you have to put in and you're planning something and you feel like if you don't take advantage of it, you've completely wasted it. Like summer vacation is truly it's the opposite of that. There is the pressure is none. And so you simply are out for the sake of being out.
I did a little bit of everything. I had structured summer vacations where I did camps.
I did camps.
Completely unstructured. I had vacations where they just put us in a car and dropped us off in another state for like 2 months.
Oh, speaking of like adultifying those experiences, I know the Chicago Public Library has brought back its adult summer reading program. Yep. So if that was your jam, if you were, you know, one of those Pizza Hut personal pan pizza kids.
Summer at CPL. This year's theme, Chapters of Chicago, celebrates the stories, sounds, flavors, and creativity that define our summer. They've got kickoffs at Sulzer, Legler, and Woodson this Saturday from 10 to 3 p.m.
I will say, hanging out
RSVP.
Hanging out in a library or bookstore probably a library for hours on end, just like chilling and reading. That's certainly on the summer vacation list for me.
Chance to get a limited edition library baseball cap. I think is that
the prize for the adult reading program?
Mm-hmm. Simone, you looking for apartments right now? Anyone that got a deck or a porch?
Almost all of them
or
do.
Or a sunroom?
My toxic trait, Jacoby, is I think I'd be fully healed if I could work outside on a porch. I think I'd be fully fine. That's the only thing.
Would you set the mic up too?
It was funny. One of the places we toured, the agent made sure to point out, like, oh, there's an outlet on the deck, and I was like,
nah, that's big.
That's good.
I don't gotta do an extension cord into the living room. No, that's clutch.
Because you can be barefooted too. That's how I am. I like to be barefoot on my porch.
100%. I'm with it. We want to hear from y'all. What would you do if you had 81 days in front of you of summer vacation, schools out type energy? Let us know. 773-780-0246. Leave your name, your neighborhood, and your summer vacation itinerary. I want to give a huge thank you to our executive producer, Simone Alisea.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
Up next, we got a segment just for our neighbors. We do this every Tuesday where our neighbors get a taste of what the team talks about behind the scenes. It's just one of the many perks you get when you join at membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. This week, we got some bad roommate stories. We've also got a live taping coming up, and our neighbors got first dibs to RSVP to that. We got a lot of perks for y'all. Membership.citycast.fm. Before we get out of here, I got some good news for you. Blount Gallery, in partnership with the Emma Till and Mamie Till Mobley Institute, are presenting a brand new art exhibition this week in honor of what would have been Emma Till's 85th birthday coming up in July. The exhibition is called From Memory to Movement, Emmett at 85. I'm going to drop a link in the show notes so you can see all of the Chicago artists who are participating. I'm definitely going to be stopping by. As always, we appreciate you for listening and reading. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.